welcome back to this week's CATAMANIA episode. I am sitting in a conversation today with one of the biggest inspirations to many, many, many women out there, Ms. Valeria Lipovetsky.
I love how you say my name. Hello. Self-awareness is key to know when it's time to step back, when it's time to surrender, when it's time to take time for myself. And I'm not apologetic about it. They're just rules. There's some rules that are not there for negotiation.
They're just not even a discussion.
I went to my mom. I said, listen, I've met someone. He's 18 years older than me. She said, if you feel it deep inside of you, like go and explore it. There's no rules to anything. Confidence, like everything else in my life, is so tied back to self-awareness. Because the more I discover about myself, the stronger and more powerful I feel. Because I know then when to speak, when to listen.
It's undeniable that when you put effort in yourself and how you look, you feel better.
The world favors people that put effort in themselves.
Hello, my wonderful listeners, and welcome back to this week's CATAMANIA episode. I am sitting in a conversation today with arguably one of the biggest inspirations to many, many, many women out there. I know many of you will recognize her. I got the privilege to sit down with her and her husband, which was also amazing. And I'm very excited to chat with her alone as well. More of like a womanhood vibe, so to speak. She is an influencer, an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother of 3, and just an overall amazing human being with great energy. And I know you will enjoy this episode. Remember to subscribe, hit the like button. You know the spiel. Enjoy and stay blessed. Ms. Valeria Lipovetsky.
I love how you say my name. Hello.
Welcome. Welcome back, I guess, in this case.
Welcome back. We shipped Gary away so we can have this conversation.
In an Uber. We didn't ask him to let us know when he arrives.
No, he'll be okay. I have a tag on him.
I love that.
I know where he's at. I know he's okay.
Those kind of freak me out. I guess we have one in like the rental car, and we had one before that. And I guess it's good that they give you notification that it's traveling with you. But I'm really happy to have you on. And it's really nice to meet you. I didn't ask you both, but obviously, I mean, I asked you off recording, but how do you like living in Miami?
I love it. I love it so much. And sometimes I feel like, am I supposed to be this happy? Like, is this allowed? I think that's maybe like an Eastern European thing. Yeah. It's like everything is too good. What's going on? No, but Miami is truly like so aligned with my energy. As you know, I was born in Russia. We moved with my mother to Israel when I was 2. Grew up in Israel. So that culture of like warmth and openness and over communication and heated arguments, like just personality in general is something that I grew up on. So when we moved to Canada, it was very much missing for me. Yeah. Canada was a beautiful country to be in. I met my husband. I had my kids there. We started our business there. So I'm very grateful for it, but I just never felt like this is my place, you know? So when we moved to Miami, it's like everything connected. You know, I get to be in the center of the world, which is the US, North America, and then I'm still able to get that like warmth and openness that is present in Miami because the influence of Latin America and just the amount of just different people from all over the world here. Yeah. So it's been wonderful.
I really miss that in Canada too, actually. I love Canada, but there's a certain, it's a great place to come and like build yourself up. But I am also missing that like easiness of communication and openness. Like just meeting somebody and right away being like, let's go for lunch or let's go for dinner. Like it's very, people are a little bit more reserved there, I feel like.
Yes, I feel like it's very, focused on your family, your home, even the homes, you know, everyone lives in like big homes and there's basements, and in the suburbs, it's like we have, the environment dictates us to kind of like stay in. You know, like the winters are long. I don't know. I just remember like winters are long. We're spending a lot of time at home. the basement is our kind of hangout. Like we don't go anywhere. There's like 4 months a year of you going out and socializing.
Yes.
But that affects like the way people just interact with each other. It's just a different type of, way of living.
Absolutely. I'm going to give, I haven't met her yet, but I am going to give a shout out to your mom because I just have a feeling that I feel like I maybe already know like a piece of her because of the story. To have to move as a single mother already is like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. To have to do that twice.
Mm-hmm. 3 times.
3 times now.
Yeah.
Is just insane. So shout out to her. And
insane.
How much did she influence the woman that you become in life? And how did she shape maybe the ability for you? Because you seem very courageous. You seem very confident. Is that something that you would say she contributed to?
Absolutely. I think just being exposed to that kind of fearlessness, although I wasn't born with it, I was actually a very like painfully introverted child who was scared of her own shadow, and my mom always reminds me of that. But seeing her going into the world, not knowing language, not understanding how she's going to survive, but going for it, and looking good while she's doing it, and having an amazing group of friends and traveling, that was always just something that obviously instilled a certain level of like of courage and of compassion, and also of that like fearlessness towards life. So she's a huge contribution to everything that I do. And, even with the bad decisions that she made, like that also shaped me in a way where it's like she had the courage to make those decisions. That was the best she could do then. And what am I learning from it now? So she really is kind of my blueprint for the woman that I wanted to become.
I kind of want to have her on my podcast now. Like I would be curious to ask
you know
her.
What, actually it's been so hard for me because everyone's asking to have her on my podcast, but my Russian, like I can communicate with her obviously, but the whole translation situation is just so complicated. But I feel like you'll be able to communicate with her in a way that's like will get out everything that needs to come out, because for me, I have a block of just like the language,
right?
A little bit.
Yeah, I would love to. First question I would ask her is, how does it feel to have such a badass daughter? Like, to look at your daughter and be like, wow, that's my,
Thank you. She's honestly, she's amazing. But you know what's crazy? I feel like I still don't know a lot about her. I think that generation of women that had to make the sacrifices that needed to be made in order to provide a better future, there's so many secrets there, and so many secrets that were that are there to like protect us from what they had to go through. So I'm still kind of going through this journey, especially as I'm getting older, and I am more rooted in like my womanhood and who I am, and having more compassion and understanding towards her journey. I'm so curious, like when is it going to be the day when she's just gonna
share it all with you?
Yeah, because she's giving me little bits throughout the years, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. We talked a little bit. You're obviously a mother of 3. I keep emphasizing that because to me I don't have any kids, right? So for me, like to have 3 kids and 3 boys is like,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
But you obviously have 3 boys. How does it feel to be surrounded by so much, masculine energy, so to speak? And how do you balance? I know we chatted a little bit with you and Gary about that, but raising sons in our world today, like I know this is a loaded question, but how do you do it? Like what's your balance there?
I think my saving grace is the fact that I married a man that when I met him, I knew that these are the qualities that I would want my children to have in general. And I think that's really important because especially for a man, we have boys, for them to have a father in their lives that is present, that's very, strong with his values and his opinions. Like, that's such a powerful thing to have. So I think that the fact that they have that example already puts me at ease. If that wasn't the case, I would probably have a much harder time to navigate raising them right now. But it's truly like leading the way in raising them, and I'm really proud of him because he stepped up. That wasn't the case when they were first born. I was very worried. And that's a lot of things. I feel like a lot of women that had or having babies, they will feel it at some point. You feel resentment towards your partner because they're not as involved.
Right.
And if they are involved, it's because it's so much more physical than anything else in the first couple of years of baby, the kids. It's more of like changing diapers, bath time. Like, you're kind of a slave physically to all of that. And men are just kind of like, or they're trying to do it, and then we're like, you're not doing it right, let me just do it. So he wasn't as involved as I thought he's going to be, but he always assured me, he's like, I promise there's going to come a time they reach a certain age and I'll need you to take the back seat, and then I'm going to step in and I'm going to lead it. And I trusted him, and he kept his promise. So he is navigating this very much like, in his own way, and I'm trying to support it as much as I can. But yeah, just I think for me, because I don't have any daughters, but I am a woman, I think even through my social media, I'm trying to advocate for, bringing men forward while still keeping, the power of like my own womanhood in. So this is why I showcase, my marriage and my relationship and share certain aspects of it and talk about our family life and family dynamic, because we need to see more of that. Like, let's bring back that like balance. So, we spoke about it a little bit on the episode with Gary, but like, let's bring more of that rather than pushing one agenda or the other. So
for sure. Something that I always ask, powerful women that I have on my podcast, and I really want to know your take on it and how do you manage to do it? You're very successful in your own way. You have millions of people follow you, look up to you. You run businesses, you do all these things. You also maintain a very soft but assertive figure, which is related to the whole balance of masculine and feminine energies. Within yourself, how do you balance those? Do you ever feel like one, kind of stomps on the other? And if that happens, how do you bring them back to center?
Yeah, you know what? It just reminded me, I don't think I answered your question before that about how I kind of find a space for my feminine in a household of masculine. But it kind of relates to this question as well, where because I have the strong masculine presence in our household, my husband, I am able to step back and to ask for what I need in order to like have my feminine, in kind of full force. So for me, all these things like success, all the success that you mentioned, to me, that's no longer the definition of success. It used to be the definition of success. My career, do I have a big following? Do I have the businesses? Now it's like all just wonderful things. But success to me is that balance, is that feeling that I'm truly in my full like capacity, right? And I take a lot of time for myself. I advocate for it a lot. Like Gary's already, I taught him very well when it's like signals of him to step in, because it's time for me to, I don't want to constantly be in this dominant situation. But it's always this like, you play with it. It's constantly comes and goes, especially when I have a business that I run and I have all these things that I think about. I think it's very easy to lose sight of that balance. So I think that for me, it's the self-awareness is key, to know when it's time to step back, when it's time to surrender, when it's time to take time for myself. And I'm not apologetic about it. That to me is kind of like the secret for it. I used to feel like I have to be either this or that. And now I'm just very much connected to like, how does it feel? Does it feel like I need more being more dominant right now? Does it feel like I need to like surrender more right now? So a lot of self-awareness is kind of what navigates how I operate in every situation.
I wonder if genes have something to do with it, like the fact, because Eastern European, Russian women, women who are born in our part of the world, I do find we kind of don't really struggle with that balance as much as sometimes maybe women do here. I don't know if it's the way we were raised or what it was.
Yes and no, because I think that the reason why I'm actually paying more attention to my femininity is because of my mom. Because my mother has always been so dominant in her relationship. She was always the leader. She was always the masculine. I think she was also always the person that like picked up those, fix and upper projects with men. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
can fix him. He has potential. So she was always very much like in her masculine. And that's something that I've recognized at some point and realized that I don't want that. So when this whole with what's going on right now, what even was going on like years ago with this whole girl boss era, like I didn't really fall too hard into it because I just remembered my mother, feel like being very unfulfilled in her feminine because she didn't have space to explore that, she didn't have time, she didn't have the privilege and luxury. So for me, it was very important to always keep that in mind. And my mom now is still like searching for it. She's
Right.
still like, how can I tap into that? She's like 53 and she's like, how can I be a woman? It's so, yeah. I don't know. I don't think it comes easily for everyone. But yes, for Eastern European, I think we're a bit more aware of it because, honestly, because of the men.
Yeah.
I think because the men were raised a certain way, that just gave us, an opportunity to know, the two.
Yeah. You do not split bills.
Exactly. They're just rules. There's some rules that are
Yes.
not there for negotiation.
They're just not even a discussion. Exactly. I agree with you. Did you ever get, and that's something that actually I wanted to ask you when Gary was here too, but I didn't get a chance. Do you ever get asked a question? Have you ever thought that you were like too young when you met him? Or did you want to like, because I get asked that a lot. I met my husband when I was very young, and the amount of times people would ask me like, didn't you want to like go out and experience more? And I'm like, experience what exactly? Like I met a man I wanted to be with and we grew together. Like it's not really, do you ever get asked those questions?
Oh, all the time. I think that you know what? I never really had doubts. I'll tell you why. I left home when I was 16. I was financially independent. I traveled the world through my work, which gave me the opportunity to explore myself independently, without supervision and meeting different people and just kind of like seeing what's out there. I would have gotten lost if I didn't have this, like, his presence in my life. Like, if I didn't have that rootedness and that like feeling of just stability and security, because that's something that was missing for me growing up. So when I met him, a lot of people talk about, oh, it was like love from first sight and all that stuff. That wasn't the case for me. For me, it was this like deep knowing, like this is my person. This is a person where I'll be able to learn about myself, about the world, like, and feel safe doing that. That to me is what marriage is. You know what I mean? Because all the love obviously is there, and all the passion, attraction, all these things there, but they come and go based on the season you're at and what's going on. But that deep knowing is just something that for me was a signal, like, this is it. And I didn't subscribe to any kind of rules of like, well, I'm only 21, or he's older, or maybe there's something else out there for me. No, because I just knew. It just felt right. And when I had a little bit of doubt, because I went to my mom first before, like when I just started seeing Gary, I went to my mom. I said, listen, I've met someone. He's 18 years older than me, but it's just like this something. And she said, if you, like, obviously I love her for that, but she said, if your intuition, like if you feel it deep inside of you, like go and explore it. There's no rules to anything. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to sit and wait for, the right guy to come up with the right credentials, with the right age, with
All
at
the
the right time
checkboxes.
for you? Like, this is where a lot of kind of women get, lost in that search for that person. So for me, that person just appeared to me. He was packaged a little differently than I thought it would be in terms of like the age difference and stuff like that. But it was just it.
There's a song my husband and I listen to a lot, and it says, when God talks to you, you don't hear it, you feel it. Like you can describe it, and it's just like a feeling. And sometimes maybe, and it, it may relate to relationship, may relate to other stuff in life, but sometimes you can't explain it, and it goes against all the reasoning that you have, but you just feel it, and
Yeah.
you have to go for it.
Absolutely. And I think it's so special to meet someone that, you feel like this is a person that will celebrate your life and your purpose and your, like, push you to be better. Because that's such a big motivation in our relationship. We're constantly like leveling up, right? Like, how can we be better individually and together? That to me is like the core of our connection, the core of our love. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. I don't think I could be with a person who wouldn't push me to be more, to level up, and my husband says the same thing. Like, we have to keep doing that, because otherwise, if you're stagnant, like, is there anything worse than just being like, okay, we're comfortable, let's just stay here, right?
That's the scariest thing for me.
Have you ever been scared to share certain things online? Something that maybe you actually let's go back to when you started social media, and specifically the niche that you picked. You obviously, you have so many things you talk about now. Was fashion the first choice?
No, the first choice was nutrition, because that's what drove me to, to get on social media, because I wanted to share kind of the education that I got about nutrition. But it wasn't catching. People were not interested. So I think that looking at kind of the feedback and the little comments that I had, the questions were, hey, what makeup did you use? Hey, where's this shirt from? And I'm like, oh, okay. And Gary was kind of at some point being like, hey, like, these recipes are really nice, but you've been modeling for a decade. You've been in the fashion industry for a decade. You think you don't have any
Input?
value there?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll try.
Yeah.
So when I did that just felt more universal and clicked with so many more people. So I doubled down on fashion. And then through that content that brought a lot of new audience, I was able to start sharing my personality, which then kept them invested in me, and it kind of grew in that way. So I looked at fashion as more like, this is the entry point, right? This is a universal language everyone understands, everyone's interested in, especially my kind of niche of women in certain ages. And I was like, okay, great. This is a great like door for them to walk into, and hopefully what they see they like and can relate to, and they'll stay.
And then it kind of spiraled on to many other things that you now share as well. What was your first, I guess, exposure to the serious business of social media? After what point did you start to actually think and understand that, like, okay, this is the path that I need to continue following? I'm only asking because a lot of people obviously listening to us are considering maybe embarking on this journey. What advice would you give to them? Like, at what point does it get serious, or did it get serious for you? And did you have any moments where you were like, maybe that's not something that I should do? Or did you always know that that's the path?
I mean, I had a huge imposter syndrome and still battle with it once in a while. So yes, like every day I would wake up and film something and be like, is there really, like, what am I doing? This is so silly. What is the value that I'm bringing here? So I had to push through that every single day in every single video that I made. That was a great exercise of building the muscle of, like, showing up. So when it became a business, honestly, that was just very clear in terms of, I was making money. I was making money. I was able to reinvest back into the company, and, having Gary by my side, cheering me on and being my like number one cheerleader. And he's like, this is, he was the visionary, and I always say he was the visionary of it, because back then when I started, you didn't see a lot of influencers building businesses at all. It was all, everyone's shooting videos from their whatever bathrooms, and like that's it, right? So there was not transparency. You didn't really know what's going on. But because he came from internet marketing, he's like, this is the future of media, like people, influencers, you know? So he was kind of like looking at it, and saw what I was doing. And he said, this is an opportunity. Are you interested in that? And for me, it was more like, the business case was clear, because again, we had the numbers to show, we had the brands coming to us. So I was like, okay, obviously there's something here. But for me, it was more like a moment of like that I had to make a decision. Am I betting on myself? Like, am I going for it? Do I believe in myself enough to show up? Because once you start building an organization around you, it's not just you. I can't just wake up one day and be like, you know what, I'm not feeling it today, or, you know, I don't believe in myself anymore, so like, let's shut down. No, like, people committed to this vision that we have, and I have to show up every day. So in the beginning of the journey, when we decided like, okay, we're gonna incorporate the business, we're gonna start hiring, and we're gonna kind of build the plane while flying it, I had to be certain that I'm showing up every single day. And that was the beginning for me of like, this is the business.
Sounds like you adopted some personal responsibility there, right? You said like all of a sudden you realize that people almost depend on you. So if
Absolutely.
it's no longer about you. It's something bigger than you. And you're
that's
like,
so scary. That's so scary. And it's a lot of pressure.
Right.
But it's a good kind of pressure. And it makes you be very responsible. It makes you be very aware. And it's, you just become more like a critical thinker, you know, because now you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about all these people around you and how it's gonna shift their lives. And yeah, it was like a big thing to take on, but I don't know how, but I decided like, I believe in myself, like I can do this.
Amazing. That kind of answers actually the question that I had earlier for you is, do you ever get scared of sharing opinions or something online? And that kind of answers my question. You said, you know, critical thinking and just, I guess, deciphering when is the time to say something and what to say and what to share.
Yeah. But you know what? I find that this morning while I was doing my makeup, I was kind of thinking about it. I'm not fully open on social media. I'm open to an extent, but I always scared about people liking me. And I think that's something in general. And I don't know if it's just women. I think that it's very prominent with women. This idea of like, you know, people need to like you. You know, everything just, we don't need to cause a lot of drama.
That's such a like different, you know, vibe from what Gary said when he was just here. It's like, I don't care about what people think.
He literally
you know?
doesn't give. He doesn't give a damn at all. But for me, I was always like, you know, just everything is great. Like people like me, and everything is okay. And you'll be this like nice girl. And I'm starting to feel like I'm kind of getting over that notion. Like I'm not saying I'm planning to be sensational by any means, because again, I don't think that everything I think needs to be said. It's just, you know, using common sense, and where is my place to interject. But I do feel like I'm getting to a point where it's time to just be more honest about certain opinions, you know? So I don't know what that means, but good luck to Gary and the team controlling
and
that.
The world.
We might get canceled this year, so heads up.
Getting canceled is it, like, honestly, the more I look at it, the more I realize that it just usually means that there's a huge breakthrough on the other side. That's what happened with me.
Yeah.
When somebody disagreed, well, a lot of people disagreed, I guess, with what I had to say. We chatted about that earlier. And after that, you come out of it and you're like, somehow I'm not doing it for the sensation at all, but somehow I became even more popular. Somehow even more like-minded people attracted to me. It's a very interesting phenomenon.
It's very interesting. And that's what's interesting to me to explore too, right? Like I was always a very aware and careful about people's perception of me. And I think now I'm kind of letting go of it, because I do think that's interesting, of just exploring a certain version of authenticity, and just like letting it be, just letting it out and see kind of what goes, because it also brings in like-minded people, or
Yes.
brings even people that will have great input, even if it's something that is a different opinion, but it's like interesting, like it just brings more of everything.
Exactly.
So
And I think if you're open-minded, that's what happens, right? Because
extremely important.
if you and I disagree, I'm sure you and I have subjects that we will disagree on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what humans are meant to do. Sometimes we're meant to discuss things and learn from one another, right? So,
And maybe that's why I crave like to break certain barriers for myself, because I think I want that more. Like I think we reached a point in society where now a conversation, just like a simple conversation, is such a big deal. It means like it's a disagreement or you against me, where in reality, like that's what's interesting to me about social media and the ability to be connected to so many people, that I get all these different opinions. So yeah, absolutely. I think that more conversations and more the ability to sit with someone or accept someone's opinion that doesn't necessarily align with mine is a beautiful thing.
we need more people in the world like us. We need people like us to go into politics, but
Oy
we
vey.
never will. The world will be a different place, a better place.
Yeah, I think right now we're so in like a black and white type
Yes.
of like environment. You're either this or that, and that's it. But you know what? I'm an optimist. I feel like we're gonna get there.
I mean, I have to believe in that, right?
You know what?
Otherwise,
Yeah, you know what? I saw a sticker. We were driving here. I took a picture of it. I saw a sticker on a bumper, and it says, "Think it's not illegal yet."
wow, I love that. America.
God
love that
bless
so
America.
much.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. You know, I think that obviously, we talked about the business side of things, and we talked about your path briefly of how you got there. I want to touch on two subjects with you, and I wanted from the moment, I knew I was going to have a chance to sit down and talk to you. Confidence and then also manifestation. So let's talk about confidence first. You mentioned that you still have moments sometimes when you kind of think to yourself like, okay, I want to be liked by people. Let's talk about confidence and that aspect, and how do you cultivate it in you, and do you have moments when you feel less confident? Because obviously you appear very confident and very like you have a high level of self-esteem in a good way, right? Like you're like this representation of confidence for women. What would you have to say about it? Confidence specifically.
I think with confidence is
It's a subject that I feel like everybody talks about, but there's also
Yeah.
there isn't really like one.
because I don't think there's a formula to it.
Right.
I honestly don't believe that you reach a point where you just become confident and that's it. And that's how you move for the rest of your life. That just doesn't happen. I feel like to me, confidence, like everything else in my life, is so tied back to self-awareness. And I think the more I know about myself, about my shortcomings, and about my strengths, I'm more confident. So I think it's just like this journey. That's why I'm so big into like this self-discovery journey, because the more I discover about myself, the stronger and more powerful I feel, because I know then when to speak, when to listen, when to step in, when to give advice, when to not. And that to me is confidence, right? Like not being a leaf in the wind that just moves based on where the wind blows. So for me, confidence equals me being open to learning about myself more and taking those lessons and implementing them in real life. So yeah, I have days where I don't feel like the best version of myself, or that I can do certain things, but I kind of refer back to the data that I've collected about myself. And I'm just like, well, yeah, it may be all these thoughts, but like look at kind of the facts, right? Like I have experience in this, I can speak to this, you know, I can share. So that helped me a lot with just navigating rooms, if it's in business or in personal life, in friendships, in relationships. That's kind of my take on confidence.
Does being a mother make you more confident? I've just been meeting so many mothers who are like just queens. And
yeah, because it puts things into perspective. Because I think like before you have this responsibility to raise humans, you just look at the world in such a, just everything feels like so big and important and like, you know, soul crushing and detrimental. And then you have children and you get to see the world through their eyes. And then you also have this feeling of like you become a lioness, right? And you just, like, this is the most important thing in the world and they're watching you navigate the world. So it just puts so many things in perspective and so much shit is not important. Everything kind of shrinks. So yeah, I feel like becoming a mother definitely just raises your consciousness and your standards of yourself.
yeah, I like that.
What do you think about confidence?
What do I think about confidence?
What is your journey with confidence?
Doing what scares me. Like if I have something that I'm thinking about doing, obviously to a limit, like I'm not gonna, you know, like I haven't jumped off a parachute. Yeah, like but if I set a goal and it scares me, I need to do it. If I, you know, want to jump on some kind of opportunity and it's scary to me, I need to do it. Because I've learned that confidence precedes action.
Absolutely.
Not the other way around. Because people think like, okay, well, the more, and it's true, the more you do something, the more confident you will become. But you almost have to fake it sometimes. And I heard somebody say fake confidence. And I heard somebody say like when you fake confidence, not like in a way of like entering a room and being like, look at me. But if you're scared of doing something and you do it anyway, and you tell yourself, no, I'm this is going to be good. Like I'm good enough to do this. I have everything I need to do this, and you do it. It's in a way you're not there yet to the confidence levels that you want to be. You're almost faking it.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So
Absolutely.
for me, it's doing things that scare you, and then also accountability to yourself. So if you set a goal, if I set a goal and I don't follow through, now I've kind of almost betrayed myself. Whereas if I follow through and I get to it, even if it wasn't the easiest thing, even if it wasn't the most, you know, the clearest path, and I go through it and I do it, wow, I just achieved something that I told myself I'm going to achieve.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, you know, the fear, there are a few things that changed for me, certain terms that changed their meaning to me as I got older and even got on social media and just kind of started this journey. Fear used to be like a very negative thing in my books. You know, we're growing up like hearing this is like a scary thing, but fear very much navigated the decision I made and the bets I made on myself and like business and opportunities that I've picked up, because I'm the same as you. If I have this like nervous butterfly, that to me is like a signal of this is my opportunity to like
You're about
level
to step
up.
out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. This is an opportunity, like this is an adventure I need to embark on. So fear to me just became this like exciting opportunity. And another thing that changed for me is the idea of like balance. I think that the term balance itself and the way when I became a mother, it's something that you get asked all the time. How do you balance? Like, and you know what? For the longest time, I tried to find this like perfect answer. Like, how do I balance? And I've realized that there is no balance, especially with my line of work. There is no balance. Like it's integration. It's being very connected to what feels like right and what feels wrong, and constantly shifting that scale towards, okay, you know, I need to spend more time with my family. Okay, now it's time to get back to work and like really focus on work. And it's never this 50-50, it's constantly 30-70, 90-10, like, you know, it constantly moves around. And I feel good about it. It feels good. I feel more in control. I feel like I can, that I can navigate, because there's no this like perfect number or perfect formula that I need to achieve. It's more about, how do I navigate it in my own way with my life and with what I need to accomplish.
It's more real too. Like it's yeah.
Absolutely. So those kind of two terms has been really changing their, concepts to me. But fear was definitely something that helped me a lot.
You know what else I also wanted to check, because you mentioned, you asked me what I think of confidence, and I have a feeling that you will agree, but putting care in what you look like and liking the way you look and taking care of your body is also huge for me. And I know it's big for you too.
It's huge.
You got it, whatever that means to you. I'm not saying that, everybody needs to go out and change something about themselves, but putting effort in yourself, because it's undeniable that when you put effort in yourself and how you look, you feel better.
You feel better. You ooze a certain kind of energy. There's little like psychology behind it, right? Like good looking people, like it's not about being born looking like a supermodel, but people pay attention. Like unconsciously, the world favors people that put effort in themselves. And I think that it's this kind of feedback loop, right? Because when you put an effort in yourself, that teaches other people how to treat you as well. When you see someone who is get their shit together, look nice, feel nice, clean, smell good, like it sets a certain type of standard. And I think that's important. Like those things, like that to me is also a reason why I love fashion, because fashion is an expression of that. It shows the world how who I am and how I perceive myself and how much care I put into myself and thought. And that really teaches them how to approach me as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Valeria, we're at our time, but I want to just the final little bits, your opinion on manifesting and how it works.
I feel like I do it a little bit differently. I am not as granular as I feel like because I've been listening to people talk about manifestation, and obviously like the details matter. I don't really pay attention to the details.
You don't write like, I have, a black Lamborghini or a yellow Lamborghini with like, details on my wheels. This is like I feel like a manly thing to describe,
but surprisingly a lot of people do it, and even when I was doing my vision board, we do like every year I get like my closest friends together and we do kind of like a vision board together. It's funny because everything is so abstract on my vision boards, where when I look at my girlfriends, it's like it's very specific. It's the Bulgari watch, it's a yacht, it's money, it's real estate, whatever it is. For me, it's so like I've noticed that that's in general how I approach life, and especially consciously approaching this year, 2024, with just like, I know kind of like the big picture, but I don't want to limit to how it comes into my life.
Okay.
It's not about the thing, it's about the feeling, it's about the concept. So on my vision board, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of like, fearless. It's a woman, that's standing on top of a building. I don't know what that means. I don't know if tomorrow I'm going to have a photo shoot on the top of a building, or if it represents a type of like dominance. I kind of, at this point, I trust the universe and I trust myself to know when something comes, it's like, that's the thing,
Amazing.
But I try to, kind of be an open channel at this point.
Again, it's more about the feeling, right? Than the thing itself. It's like the feeling that it'll bring you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm more like that too lately. Like I was before, a lot more like detailed, granular, but then I realized it's almost like you put a limit to it, because
absolutely
you are chasing in the end a feeling, not a thing. So maybe a different thing will bring you the same feeling, but you just don't know it, right?
Exactly.
So you
and I welcome that. I welcome the unknown paths, because that's like the most exciting ones. You get to explore sides of yourself that you don't know. I don't want to do the same thing that I've done before, knowing how I'm going to feel and what I'm going to say and how I'm going to react. No, I want to learn new versions of myself. That's the whole point. So that's kind of how I approach it.
I love it. Valeria, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming
This
on my
was
podcast.
so
This was
fun.
amazing. It was such a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you to our wonderful listeners for tuning into this episode. I will see you next week.